If you've studied World War II for any length of time, you already know that armies worked hard to regulate what went into a soldier's kit. They had reasons for it: weight, discipline, ration control, vulnerability to theft, even political ideology. But the men on the ground had their own priorities. When you're cold, starving, burned out, and staring down another day of artillery fire, survival takes on a different meaning. Official rules become suggestions. Morale becomes currency. And across every front, soldiers quietly carried items they weren't supposed to. Items they hid not from the enemy, but from their own officers. Let's break down 7 silent survival items soldiers kept concealed, not because they were dangerous, but because they made life bearable. First, chocolate became a forbidden lifeline when supply chains broke down. Chocolate was technically allowed in rations, but the real contraband was civilian chocolate, the good stuff. Soldiers traded for it on the black market, bought it from locals, or bartered cigarettes for a small bar wrapped in foil that reminded them of home. The reality is simple: officers hated it because it cluttered supply discipline and encouraged unauthorized trade with civilians. But for the men, a bar of chocolate was fuel, quick sugar in extreme fatigue, and emotional rescue during the worst moments of trench life or winter marches. Veterans consistently described it as worth more than pay. It's a good example of how morale often trumped regulation. Practically today you see the same principle in modern fieldcraft. Fast sugar and compact morale items matter. Long-distance hikers still stash civilian candy over standard-issue energy blocks for the same reason soldiers did. Second, pornographic magazines circulated silently through barracks and foxholes. No army wanted to officially acknowledge it, but honestly, almost every front had them. For Allied troops, these magazines came from local printers, black market vendors, or even makeshift soldier-made pamphlets. For Axis troops, they were explicitly banned in some commands for moral, ideological, or propaganda reasons. Officers cracked down not because of the content itself, but because it disrupted order. Magazines led to trading rings, gambling, and conflict. But morale among young men who'd been away from home for years, that was non-negotiable. They hid them under blankets, inside mess tins, tucked in helmet liners, anywhere a quick inspection wouldn't find them. The broader point is psychological survival. Humans under extreme stress gravitate toward anything that normalizes life. Third, stimulants and painkillers circulated unofficially, even where supplies were regulated. Most armies issued limited amounts of stimulants: British Benzedrine, German Pervitin, American caffeine tablets, but soldiers often acquired more on the side. The line between official and contraband blurred fast. Men carried extra amphetamines, aspirin tablets, codeine, or whatever they could scrounge. Officers were wary because dependence was real, and units needed men alert, not wired or crashing. But exhausted soldiers moving through sleepless operations hid pills inside razor cases or sewing kits. It's a reminder that extreme conditions bend human behavior. Today, survivalists often carry caffeine gum or electrolyte stimulants for emergency pushes. It's the same idea, modernized. Fourth, homemade alcohol turned up in every corner of the war. Some soldiers brewed it using yeast packets from bread rations, fruit scraps, and sugar when they could get it. Others distilled alcohol from antifreeze, a dangerous but historically well-documented method used by Soviet, German, and even American troops. Commanders banned it for obvious reasons: drunkenness on duty, health risk, and complete breakdown of operational readiness. But for soldiers, one drink meant warmth, sleep, and a temporary escape from trauma. It meant brotherhood. It meant feeling human. Hidden flasks were sewn inside coats, buried near camps, or passed in canteens disguised as water. Officers cracked down constantly, but it never stopped. Fifth, forbidden religious items were hidden by soldiers under regimes that discouraged or outright banned them. The best-known example is within Nazi units. Although not universally enforced, some commands discouraged personal religious symbols that weren't aligned with state ideology. Soldiers, who clung to small crosses, rosaries, or pocket prayer books, hid them deep in their kits. The same applied, in different ways, to Soviet soldiers carrying icons or small Bibles in a system that discouraged religious expression. For many troops, faith wasn't politics, it was emotional armor, something to hold when everything else failed. They risked discipline to keep it. In survival psychology today, small tokens, religious or symbolic, still play a powerful role in morale and mental endurance. Sixth, personal knives were often carried against regulation. Most armies issued standardized utility knives, but men routinely carried private blades, civilian hunting knives, folding knives, or handcrafted trench knives, even when banned for being non-standard gear. Officers didn't want a mix of unauthorized blades for legal, logistical, and disciplinary reasons, but soldiers wanted a tool they trusted. Something sharp enough to cut wire, defend themselves, carve wood, fix equipment, or open cans with one twist. A soldier's personal knife became part of his identity, and many hid them inside boots or behind sewn panels in their packs. Fieldcraft today still emphasizes personalization of tools. You always carry the blade that fits your hand. Seventh, homemade food stashes kept men alive when official rations ran thin. Whether it was dried bread, foraged berries, cured meat from civilians, or smuggled farm goods, soldiers regularly hid prohibited food. Officers needed ration discipline and tightly controlled calorie distribution. Soldiers needed survival. They hid food in ammo pouches, helmet liners, and even beneath false floors in their kit bags. Several POW accounts mention hidden food stashes as the difference between surviving winter or starving. Rules only hold when conditions allow them. Hunger doesn't care about regulations. These 7 items weren't weapons, escape tools, or intelligence devices. They were human lifelines, small objects that helped men cope, endure, and survive one of history's harshest environments. They tell us something important. No matter how strict an army becomes, soldiers will always carve out space for what keeps them sane. If you appreciate deep-cut World War II history like this, make sure you subscribe, share the video, and help keep serious historical storytelling alive.